I got arrested and went to jail. I did. This is not clickbait. This actually happened. And I've mentioned it a few times before, but in this video, I'm going to give you the entire details of what happened. It was kind of interesting. And at the end of this video, I will give you some techniques on what you might want to do if you encounter a problem like this, and the odds are getting higher and higher all the time as the Western world collapses, as the Western world becomes more socialist and authoritarian, that you might have more encounters than you think with the court system or the police. So, as always, I am Caleb Jones. This is Alpha Male 2.0. I make a multi-six-figure, location-independent international income while dating multiple attractive women. And I show men like you how to do the same thing. As a matter of fact, when it comes to alpha male, I have read in a few articles, I think I heard a guy say this on YouTube once, you're not a real alpha male unless you've gone to jail at least once. I guess I qualify. Yoo-hoo! So let me put this in context. This was a long time ago. This was about, I don't know, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, somewhere in there, 11 years ago. And as I've written about in my blogs and my books, when the 2008 financial collapse came along, I was in the middle of a divorce. So my divorce began in early 2007. 2008 came around and my divorce took 2 years. Mostly my fault because I was kind of farting around. I was kind of delaying the paperwork. We had some disagreements. And so in the middle of all this, so as I'm navigating a divorce and supporting 2 households, because I had an ex-wife and 2 small children back then, in the middle of all that, the global financial crisis hit in 2008, and I lost about 60% of my total income within 3 months. In the middle of me trying to figure out how to manage 2 households and going through a divorce and paying attorneys and all that fun stuff. So that, plus another factor of me not focusing too hard on my business life around that time, 2008, 2009, I was focused mostly on my woman life. I was hardcore Black Dragon back then, and I was figuring out all my dating skills and having a good time doing that. So because of all those reasons, I fell behind on my child support and alimony payments. And so I was so behind, I don't remember the exact numbers, this is so long ago. I think I was 3 months behind at one point. 2 months behind, I forget. And every state in the United States handles this issue differently. Every jurisdiction, every country handles this differently. But they sent me some warnings that I ignored because I was too busy getting laid and freaking out about my financial life. It was a little crazy time back then. And they actually issued a warrant for my arrest. And it was considered contempt of court. When you ignore summons for payment or what have you, it's considered contempt of court. And contempt of court is a crime, sort of. I think it's a misdemeanor. And so I was guilty of 4 counts of contempt of court because I ignored these notices. So I was still paying child support, by the way. It's not like I wasn't paying it. I was paying it. I just wasn't paying the correct amounts because I didn't really have the money. I was recovering from all this crisis and losing 60% of my business and all that fun stuff. So it's not like I was being a deadbeat dad. I was still paying the child support. I was just paying less than I should have paid. As a matter of fact, if I had paid nothing, I would have gotten those notices much quicker. So it actually, and maybe I would have taken them more seriously. I don't know. It's hard to say. It was a long time ago. But anyway, I get this notice in the mail for an arrest. There's a warrant for your arrest. And I'm like, what? What the hell? So I call one of my attorneys and I said, hey, I have this warrant for my arrest. What do I do? Because I've never been arrested before. I don't know how this works. He's like, well, you don't have to do anything. I mean, that means if you get pulled over, like, at a driving stop, they will arrest you. They're not going to come to your house. That's not how it works for these kinds of things. This is contempt of court. You haven't been found guilty of murder or anything like that. You haven't assaulted anybody. This is just a paperwork thing. So I said, well, how do I fix this? I can't have a warrant for my arrest for the rest of my life. He goes, right. What you have to do is go down to the jail and pay them whatever you owe. So what do you owe? And I looked it up. It was like, I forget the number. I think it was like $2,000 they wanted for that arrest warrant. And he said, okay, $2,000. Do you have $2,000? I said, yeah, I could get it. He's like, all right, just bring $2,000 cash. Don't bring a check, bring cash, and just walk into the police station and hand it to him and show him the notice and just hand him the money. I said, oh, cool. Then I just leave. He goes, actually, no. It's government. It's going to take them 2 or 3 hours because government is incompetent and slow. It's going to take them 2 or 3 hours to process the paperwork. And while they process the paperwork, they're going to have to arrest you. So they will actually handcuff you and put you in jail while they process the paperwork. I said, well, wait a minute. What if they don't let me out? He goes, they will. Don't worry. I promise they'll let you out. I said, you sure? He's like, yeah, I'm sure they'll let you out. It'll take some time. An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, what have you, depending on how organized they are that day. I said, all right, cool. So one day, 2 or 3 days later, I just put an appointment in my calendar, go to jail. I literally put it in my calendar. Among other my appointments, I had some consulting appointments later that day. So I dressed up like a normal day for work at the consulting office, and I went down to the jail and handed them money, and they were very nice. They were very polite. He goes, all right, we have to arrest you now. I'm like, all right, cool. And sure as shit, yeah, I was arrested for reals. They put the handcuffs on me, they fingerprinted me, they had to walk me down the long hallway, and they had to put me in general population. So now, to be clear, this is jail, this is not prison. And if you don't know the difference, prison is when you're convicted of a crime, you have to spend like a year there or whatever, or 20 years. 20 years in life, you got it. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So jail is where you spend the night and they let you out the next day because you're drunk and disorderly or something like that. So this was jail, and I figured I would get a jail cell, like by myself or with some dude, some big hairy guy named Bubba, and we would just hang out and talk and I would leave. No, that's not how it worked. It was a general population thing. So what they did is they put me in this big room with like 30 guys. And it's this big room with these big tall ceilings. It's 4 concrete walls. I don't remember there being a toilet in this room. Maybe there was and I didn't notice. But there's some benches and guys are just sitting there. They're laying on the floor, hanging out, chilling out, talking to each other, joking around like it's no big deal. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot during those 3 hours. I walked in and I was dressed in a nice shirt and some slacks. And as I walked in the room and they slammed the door behind me and I'm in this room with all these fucking convicts, I walk over to sit down on the bench and one guy looks at me and goes, DUI, right? I said, no. Do I look like I'm drunk? He's like, no. Every time we see a guy in here dressed really nice like you, it's always DUI. Always DUI. You were driving your, let me tell you, you can be honest, man. You were driving your Ferrari or your Corvette, right? And you had a little too much to drink and the cops pulled you over and you gave the cops some shit and now you're here in jail, right? DUI, right? I said, no, contempt of court. And they kind of went, contempt of court? That's lame. That's probably not a very alpha male reason to go to jail. And as you'll find out in a second, it wasn't. So anyway, I sat down and I'm just kind of listening to these people talk. And I talked to one guy next to me. But it's fascinating because this is a part of life I don't normally spend in. I have since then when I visited like some second world, third world countries and talked to some very questionable people. It's kind of an interesting part of life. But I realized that day that there is an entire population of men who spend their lives going in and out of jail and in and out of prison. It's their lifestyle. And what I mean is there were guys in that room who were saying stuff like, hey Joe, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. Why are you in here? He's like, I beat up my girlfriend again. Yeah, or I was selling, they caught me selling heroin again. And as they talked, these were guys who had been in and out of jail 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. There's an entire population of men that you may not be aware of that just cycles in and out of jail their whole lives. It's their lifestyle. They get out of jail, they commit some crime, they beat up their wife, or they sell drugs, or they do drugs, or they do a drunken disorderly, or they scream at a cop, and they get thrown right back into jail. And it just is a constant cycle in and out, in and out, in and out. And most of the guys in this room, hilariously, were in that category. These were guys who had been to jail many times. This is the first time I've been in jail. Hopefully the last time I will go to jail. And so I didn't know any of this. So it was very interesting to listen to these conversations going to jail of all these crazy bastards. Oh yeah, I got in a bar fight again. Or oh yeah, I got stabbed in the leg again. And it's always again. It wasn't like me, like, wow, this is the first time I've been to jail. This is crazy. No, there were all these guys who just were jailbirds. And that was their lifestyle. And they were really nice guys. Talked to a few of them, kind of funny, joking around. It was great. Had actually a good time. It was actually a valuable experience for me. It's things I learned in there I probably wouldn't have learned other places. So I look back, I don't know if you can tell, I look back at these memories with fondness, not with fear. I know guys, normal everyday guys who have gone to jail like overnight, and they describe this horrible experience, or a few hours, and they describe this terrifying, horrible experience. I actually had a good time. I just joked around and talked to these guys. It was no big deal. But as an hour or two passed, and I didn't have a watch because they take all your belongings and they put them in a little bag. So I didn't have a watch, didn't have a phone, didn't know how long it had been. And I started getting a little nervous. I started thinking, what if they fuck up the paperwork? Or what if my attorney was wrong and they don't let me out, and I'm stuck here. How's that going to work? Am I going to sleep here? And there were guys who had slept there for a few days. There are guys who've been in that room sleeping on that concrete floor for 4 days. Damn. So I'm like, I don't think I want to spend several days in here. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm scared to be in jail. It was more like, I got work to do. I got client work to do. I got this. I'm thinking of all my work projects that would have to fall behind if I was in jail for 4 days. That's how I think. Anyway, so, and I'm also thinking about all the cool stories I can tell my FBs and MLTRs. Hey, I was in jail. It was awesome. Anyway, long story short, they knock on the door, chunk, 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 or they don't knock on the door. They open the door, chunk, 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 and it slides out, and they go, Jones! Caleb Jones! And I go, cool, and I get up, and they all look at me like, oh shit, you're out already? What the? And they were like this surprise, and I said, yeah, see you later, have fun. And I walked out, and they handcuffed me one more time, I believe, walking down that hallway again. Then they let me go, and they gave me all my stuff back, and I left. And I literally, it was about 2.5, 3 hours, and it was right according to the schedule I had set. So I literally walked out of jail, got back into my car, and went to my next consulting appointment like nothing happened, like it was just some other appointment. My slacks were a little dirty from the bench, but other than that, it was fine. And I just continued with my work day, and it was fine. And what's interesting is that during some of this 5 flags stuff, I've had a scenario in several countries where I've had to submit an FBI background criminal check report, and it will show this arrest that I had, 10 years ago. And the FBI, of course, screwed it up and just put arrest and a date. And so sometimes I've submitted this report to various governments during my 5 flag stuff to apply for residency or citizenship. And they'll go, you had an arrest, but it doesn't say what it was for. I mean, we don't know what that's for. Was it murder? Did you rob cars? Were you selling drugs? And it sucks because it showed arrest, but not what it was for. So of course, I had to pay an attorney $800, an expungement attorney, to go in and edit the report at the FBI. I can't remove the arrest, but I can show arrest, contempt of court, 4 charges, misdemeanor, charges dismissed. So that way it doesn't look bad on my report anymore. And so far I haven't had any problems with any of my 5 flag stuffs once I had that data on there. But it goes to show. As a matter of fact, after my arrest, when I talked to my attorney, I said, hey, do I have a criminal record now? So anytime someone checks me, I'm gonna have a criminal record? And he said, no, it's not a crime. Contempt of court is not a crime. It's a violation. I don't know what the technical term is, the legal term. And he was actually wrong because it does come up. And if it's not clear, people get nervous about it. Now today, it's better. It actually shows why I was arrested and what it says on the report. So it's not a big deal anymore. But that's it. That's my story. Now, if you have a problem like this, where you have a run-in with the police or run-in with the court system, the number one thing I can recommend to you is don't talk to the police. Have your attorney talk to them for you. Now, if you're very, very, very poor, this probably isn't an option because attorneys are expensive. But if you ever have a scenario where a cop bangs on your door and opens the door and starts interrogating you, what you should do, the correct answer, and I've learned this from men who have a lot more money than me, the correct answer is one moment, beep, beep, talk to him and hand them your phone and have them talk to your attorney. You don't want to talk to the cops. You want your attorney to do your talking for you. Another thing, and this is a big one, and this is something that should be obvious, but people don't get this. I even mentioned this in The Unchained Man, and that is when you talk to police officers, even in a normal misdemeanor scenario or violation scenario where you're pulled over for speeding or something like that, be nice. Do not raise your voice to the cops, especially if you live in the United States. If you raise your voice and yell at the cops, that's a good way of getting shot. So when you talk to police officers, be nice, be polite. Even if they're totally out of line and you're furious, center yourself, take 2 or 3 deep breaths and relax and then speak normally. I have personally witnessed, and you have personally seen or seen YouTube videos of what happens when you see someone and the cop is talking to that person and that person gets pissed off and starts screaming at the cop and getting in the cop's face. Now, maybe that's okay in Europe. And it might be okay in Canada or Australia. But if you do that in the United States, you're going to get tasered, you're going to get shot, you're going to get dragged to jail. Don't do that. Be nice and control yourself when you talk to the police. And ideally, have your attorney talk to the police. This is a very big topic. And frankly, I'm not an expert because I'm not a criminal. So I really couldn't give you more data on this, but I know those two things. And I've gotten out of speeding tickets. I've gotten out of several scenarios where I could have been in big trouble because I was nice and polite and had a quiet tone of voice with the police officers. But that's it. That's my fun story about going to jail. Kind of interesting, one of the more interesting experiences of my life, and I actually learned a lot. If you want to protect yourself against the Great Reset, you should watch this video right here. I go through several things on how to protect yourself, and you're going to need this as the Western world continues to collapse. I will see you in the next video. Bye.